Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another versus review. Yeah, one directly after the previous one that was just like a day ago. But I have time. Where today we are comparing Everest and Fall. So, what's the connection with these two movies? What can you tell? They're both movies about being trapped at very of the highest of heights and trying to survive. Except one is with multiple people that they have connection to the ground, and some of them do get back. This one, they're just stuck at the top of the tower, and they have no way down. I mean, look at the size of this damn thing. Holy God. And I've given both these movies a 9 out of 10. And I agree that these two films are amazing. But which one is better? Well, in this installment of the Versus series, let's find out. Everest versus Fall. Which is better? So first off, we have the story. Very important factor. So what's the story of Everest? Well, it's based on the 1996 Mount Everest disaster, where a group of where two expedition groups, one led by Rob Hall and the other led by Scott Fisher, are decides to climb up Mount Everest on the 10th of May 1996. However, a snowstorm passes by and it causes a very big disaster to happen, eventually leading to the deaths of some of the people. And if you know Everest, you know who dies. But I didn't when going into it, so it was a very big shock to who died and who didn't. I'm not going to say who died though, because I want you to watch this movie, and because it is brilliant. But let's talk about the story for Fall as well. So Fall is about two women, Becky and Hunter. Becky was married to a man named Dan who died in a mountain accident a long time ago, and she's very sad about it, even though it's nearly been a year since he died. And the ashes of her husband collect dust in her house while she drinks alcohol and contemplates suicide. However, the her friend Hunter, who's made a career out of herself on YouTube, decides to climb up this decommissioned tower that's going to be torn down in the following winter. And she decides to take Becky with her. So the two of them go up the but the two of them go up the tower, but they get stuck on top of it. So now they have to try and survive as their resources are small and they have not a lot of decisions to do. So yeah, both these stories are pretty similar in that they're about people getting stuck on a very high altitude. But I feel like I would have to give Fall the better point here because I love the story of Everest, but it feels more standard to me. And yes, it is very depressing to see people die. I feel like this could have been more easily avoided if they, picked a better day. I mean, yeah, you can't predict it, but like, there is this thing called postponing things, right? If they noticed the storm front is coming in, then they maybe could have, gone better timing. Maybe they could have delayed it a bit. But you can't do everything. But I feel like the story of Fall is a bit more unique, and it does lend itself to a more interesting twist about what happens. So I'll have to give the point to Fall. First point to Fall. There we go. So now we have the characters. And a big difference between Everest and Fall is that Everest has actual writing in it. The problem I have with Fall, which are very small, is that the writing is kind of weak. Not the twist about what happens to one of the characters. Now, that's a great twist. I give it great. But I feel like the writing between the characters seems a bit unrealistic at the beginning of the film. Of course, when they do go up the tower, then that's when it becomes much more realistic, and you definitely do feel the emotion with the writing. But I feel like the writing in Everest felt ever so more complete. If I can get there, we go. It feels more complete, and the characters feel more like real people, probably because they are real people. So that probably helps a bit. Now, I'm not disregarding the writing of Fall, but I feel like the writing of Everest does lend itself to more unique situations. The characters talk realistically and they feel incredibly realistic because, once again, they're real people. And you do feel for them because the writing really helps home in the fact that they're in a really bad situation. Sometimes they joke about it because, like, comedy is where people can be brought out of darkness in order to come into the light. Like, for example, Pete Davidson was really depressed after his father died in 9/11, and then with the help of comedy, he was able to get back to it. Well, of course, now comedy doesn't help all the time, as the ending of the film is very depressing, but I feel like comedy is a good substitute for making characters feel real. If you just have the characters sit around and do serious things all the time, then they don't feel realistic. For example, I think Dune is written badly because the characters don't feel realistic. They just feel like serious pawns who don't have anything to do other than just act serious all the time. But with movies like Everest, they do feel more realistic. And when bad things does do happen, they do lend themselves to make jokes sometimes. And but most of the time, they do want to take things seriously because they know what situation they're in, so they don't try to joke around about like a bunch of dumbasses. For example, with Fall, they joke about it sometimes, and yeah, they're going insane from being alone. But I feel like their insanity begins a little bit too late because they just act okay with it at first, making jokes, calling each other names, but it doesn't feel as real as other things. So I'll have as Everest. So I'll have to give a point to Everest. Well done. So next up is the acting, and there is no denying that I like both the acting in these movies. They have to feel realistic, and they do have to capture fear and horror as expertly as possible. But I don't know, with Everest, some actors just feel less emotion than others. Like, for example, Josh Brolin doesn't feel as, how do I put it? I don't know, but it it just feels pretty emotionless to me. There is emotion in Josh Brolin's performance, but I don't feel that emotion pop out at me. I feel very bad for him for what happened to him, but like it just doesn't feel. I don't feel that emotion. Some actors really do sell their performances, but some like Josh Brolin, Jake Gyllenhaal, they just don't capture. Sam Worthington looks pretty bored throughout most of the film, which is really bad because he uses actual accent in this, and he doesn't sound like he's faking it. Like he's faking an accent, like an Avatar or Terminator Salvation, which both came out in 2009, mind you. So he did two American accents. If I had a nickel for every time he did two bad American accents in two films in 2009, I'd have two nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that happened twice, right? But what matters is that I prefer the acting in Fall because it's just directed better. The actors have better direction. They feel more realistic. As I said before, they do make jokes, but when things are bad, they really do sell their performances. The two women who play the main characters are fantastic in this. They really sell this horror as great as possible, and they're just great. So I'll have to give a point to Fall for having the better acting of the film. So there you go, Fall. Here's another point. And next up is cinematography. You're probably wondering why I'm going straight to cinematography instead of music, but that doesn't matter. So cinematography. Why am I talking about cinematography in this when I would obviously put the two of them together? That would make a lot more sense. Well, in actuality, what these two films have to do is that they not only have to portray the fear of heights, it also has to show that fear of heights. And what do I mean by show? Use good cinematography to portray that. And I think that Everest does the better job at using cinematography to its advantage. Why? Because they show many sweeping shots of Everest, and you really do feel the scale of this mountain and how dangerous the thing that they're doing is. And once the disaster happens, they use the cinematography to their best, and they really do make you feel as intense as possible. But the cinematography with Fall, There are some great shots in this movie. Don't get me wrong. This is still a beautifully well shot movie, but some shots just don't feel as well. Like this movie was made on a $3 million budget, which, considering how great the effects look, minus the first scene, is that they really do look good for as low as a budget as this had. But when they're on the ground, this does mean that it has the signature low budget shaky cam, which I personally believe that the only two films that have used shaky cam to their advantage to make their film improve itself are United 93 Paul Greengrass and Captain Phillips, both coincidentally directed by Paul Greengrass, who's also hated for using shaky cam in his Jason Bourne films because they make them look like blenders and that you can't see anything and it's all one jumbled mess. But I disagree. I think it's only bad in any other movie except for United 93 and Captain Phillips because they're meant to be realistic thrillers. So the shaky cam helps make it more uncomfortable and terrifying. Granted, I've only seen Captain Phillips because I have no way to watch United 93 because the film was taken off Netflix. Cowards! So I'm planning to get it on DVD so I can actually watch this, but I'm only gonna watch it once because watching it again, I'll have to have a box of tissues beside me. Actually, who am I kidding? I can't cry movie because I'm a emotionless dumbass. But regardless of my uh how do I put it? My inability to cry, I think that the cinematography in Everest is better. So Everest gets a point. So that's now tied. So now we have one more factor, the music. Oh boy, the music. Now, both these movies have one track that I've put in my top 20 as one of my favorite movie tracks of all time. But you're gonna have to wait till March for that video, so good luck trying to guess which one is better and also which one I've chosen from which film. I mean, you know what films there are, but but you don't know which film, which track it is, and which one is better than the other. So yeah, I think that the music, I prefer the music in Fall. Now, granted, both movies suffer from the issue of having similar sounding music in many scenes. Actually, I think Fall does this more. But the track they do use in Fall multiple times is a very good track, and it captures hope that maybe they're going to get out of this. But there's also many dark and dramatic tracks in this movie as well that make you feel, oh crap, they're dead. But with Fall, for some reason, they love using an accordion in this movie. I don't know why, but there's many tracks that I feel like they use an accordion, and some tracks don't fit the mood at all, and sometimes there's no music at all, and it just kind of inconsistent in my opinion. So honestly, I'll have to give this to Fall, which means Fall wins. Congratulations! You don't get a you don't get a trophy because I can't afford one because I'm poor. Yay. But overall, I think that Fall is a better movie, but I highly recommend you watch both movies. So Fall is on Netflix if you want to watch it. And how do you watch Everest? Uh, Pirate. Actually, no, don't do that because that's illegal. Instead, if you have a DVD player, then get it on DVD. If you don't, then you're a dumbass. Just find a way to watch it legally, like I did with the DVD. You want proof? You want proof that I have a DVD of this movie? Boom. There it is. Everest. So, yeah, overall, I think that Fall is a better movie, but like I said before, watch both movies because they're both amazing. 9 out of 10 fantastic films that have great story, great acting, great characters, just great everything. But some did one thing better than the other, so I'll have to give it that. Bush, Bush. There is another Versus series review that I'm going to be making later for episode 10. We're already on episode 9 already, doing these once a month or twice a month because I sometimes forget to do them because, as I already mentioned, I cannot keep time correct, as you probably know at this point. However, for episode 10, I'm going to be comparing Into and Across the Spider-Verse. Yes, I am dead serious. I'm going to try and find a flaw in the Spider-Verse movies. Forgive Me, Lord, for I have sinned. Both movies I've given 10 out of 10. I think they're both masterpieces of cinema. Spider-Verse should have gotten a nomination for Best Picture. Which one? Both of them. But I will admit that the one is better than the other. So stay tuned for that video. When? Figure it out yourself. Or just look at the schedule that I post every month. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this Versus series review. Stay tuned for that on the 20th, or 18th. Make sure to like, subscribe, and goodbye.